Excel has a number of rounding functions, and you want to be sure to use them in certain situations rather than using buttons on the Home tab that increase or decrease decimals. In cell C2 is a formula here. Based on the data in cell B2, we're going to have a price increase 2.65%. That's over in cell E1. So imagine this is some office equipment. Maybe it's a box of pencils or something. Somebody orders 10,000 of these, large company or something. So you know the answer ahead of time. 10,000 times this $8 here, it's going to be 80,000. But it isn't. And somebody has to account for that missing, what is it, $35.65 here. So is this really $8? It surely doesn't look like it based on our calculation. Now, in the number group on the Home tab, if we click the button for increase decimal, as I do this, notice how the decimals will change in column C, but the result in column D, the calculation is staying the same. Here's the real answer. That's the real answer. So regardless of how you display this, now again, as I decrease or increase decimals, the calculation stays the same. So it's pretty apparent I'm not really changing this value. That's the mistake you don't want to make. Now, it's easily overlooked in a situation like this. Whoever wrote the formula never had any reason to display more decimals or never gave it much thought, but surely there could have been, and there might have been, 1/10 of a cent left over. In this case, it was quite a bit more complex than that. So in situations like this, you do want to display more decimals. Simply click the button to increase the decimals. That's the real result. Ultimately, you won't leave it displayed like that. So what we really need to do here to change the answer is to use a function called round. The round function allows us to round this to a significant number of decimal places. For example, comma 2 means to the nearest 2 decimal places. In other words, the nearest penny. And as I press enter, we will get the answer 8, just as before, but the calculation to the right truly will be 80,000. So we didn't, of course, need to keep this display, but that's a good idea as we're working with data like this. If we copy this down the column, we'll see that our other answers are making sense too. We want them accurate to the penny. Now, if we wanted to round these upward to the next penny, and I'll simply press F2 here and put in up right here, this means that the pricing will go up to the next penny even if we're 0.9 cents away from it. So as I press Control Enter here, since these are all selected, some of these will go up an additional penny. Keep an eye on the numerical entries in column C as I press Control Enter here. So we see what's happening in these various examples here. Round down, of course, means go down to the previous penny. That's going to change our first price to $7.99, and some of the others will change too as I press Control Enter. We see what's happening there. There could be situations where you need to round to other amounts that are not decimally based. In column I is a salary calculation. It's very similar to the previous calculation. This is based on data in cell J1 and, of course, the salary in cell H2. So we see a calculation here. Sometimes yearly salaries are to the nearest whole dollar. And in this case here, we can't tell by the display right away unless we're showing the decimals, and we are. Maybe we want to round this to the nearest dollar, so we'll simply put in round here at the beginning and then comma 0 at the end. If you'd like to round these to the nearest 26, now why would you want to do that? If you have 26 pay periods a year, in some situations, maybe the company's decided that the gross pay for each pay period should be an even number. We can round these to the nearest multiple of 26. Or if you get paid twice a month, we want to round it to the nearest multiple of 24. If you get paid monthly, we might want to round this to the nearest multiple of 12, and so on. But the function we use is going to be different here. It's called mround. And if we want this to go to the nearest 26, meaning we would have 26 pay periods a year, we always want the gross amount for each pay period to be an even dollar. We'll put in 26 right here. And that's a direct multiple of 26. And of course, in different situations, put in 24 or 12 as needed. So there's a variety of techniques here for using rounding here. And going back to a previous example here, I'll press Control Z a few times. If we wanted to round this to the nearest $100, now you might not want to tell everybody that this is being done, but we can round to the left of the decimal also. I'll put in a -2 here. That's going to go to the nearest $100, and it will go up or down as necessary. And backtracking with Control Z, that had been $559. So in this case, it went up $41. Pressing Control Y to redo, we're rounding to the nearest $100. There we are, with round up. So different uses of the round function. It's companion mRound. We also saw round up and round down. You want to explore these a bit. Anytime you're working with calculations that might involve leftover information, those pennies can add up to a lot over time. So be very careful with using rounding. And again, don't mistake the buttons that are in the ribbon for rounding here as truly rounding the results. They simply change the visual display.